I've learnt that the line for consent is, I don't think it's as clear cut as I thought it was.
Feels to be more of a grey area of what consent is, like whether, like what's the line where it's yes, and what's the line where it's just like they're not in the right frame of mind to be make that decision. There all seems to be a grey area of what would be considered a rapist, like somebody who's going out there for only that purpose, to go out and physically rape somebody, or somebody who just made the wrong decision.
I think what I've learned from today is that there's a massive misunderstanding of what consent is, and I think it's a real big issue, and maybe something that needs to be looked at and maybe taught maybe in schools or a little bit earlier on in life.
I learnt about what the different views are about consent, and how some people don't see consent the same as others. Like some people don't know where to draw the line, and learn about like what other people's views are basically about things like rape.
I've definitely learnt and realised how thin the line is. I knew it was like thin before, but I've realised it's really hard to judge and tell the difference between what is and isn't rape, and how it can affect someone's life as well, and also how opinions differ through sexes and the type of person they are and how they've been brought up.
I found that the big difference is that the guys found it really difficult to understand, what the consent was. They may take that if a girl was being a bit flirty, that was a form of consent. But then at the same time, the girls were more worried about whether them being flirty and not saying no was a form of consent. Where I think, you shouldn't have to verbally say no or yes to be consent. I think guys need to maybe, or just people in general, need to be a lot more clued up on reading the signs and, and communicating that better.
I think that boys are a lot more sort of controlled by the media, so they have to lose their virginity and things, and they have to basically have sex with loads of girls, whereas girls are like totally different, where it's like, no, I've got to keep my number low.
Growing up, boys are told that it's like manly to like go out and get loads of girls, whereas girls are told you've got to protect like your virginity and you've got to protect yourself and you've got to like be as careful as you can. So it'll differ definitely in that sense.
When one person or one or more people like kind of force a sexual act onto another person who has either said no, isn't in the right frame of mind, whether that be under the influence of alcohol or any drugs, or is just tired and has no ability to say yes or give consent.
I think, well, we don't really. I don't think we all understand really what it is. I don't think you can understand what rape is until you've actually been raped, because no one knows like the emotional trauma that you must feel. And I think at least talking about it, I suppose we can come to an understanding about, well, a clearer understanding about what this actually is.
So the definition of rape is doing something sexual, either using a guy, mainly obviously his penis, or a foreign object, and inserting that into a female or a male, obviously without consent.
I think consent is just basically saying yes and agreeing with having sex, basically. Like, I don't see, like, to me, if I hadn't said yes, then that's when it's no longer, there's no consent there. So anything that isn't saying yes could be classed as rape.
I think consent is when, to me, when a male or a female or whoever is allowing that person, whether it be verbally or physically or in whatever way, to be close and to do that, to that next thing. And I think it's a very important thing that obviously that you've got consent, And it shouldn't just be taken as a verbal thing. You know, if someone says yes once, 5 minutes later, you know, they should be able to change their mind. And if they feel uncomfortable or they say no, then that person needs to be clear they no longer have consent.